Hello. Well, it's been a while since we've been together to talk about Noah's Ark and everything that happened. So I think we're going to start out today with just a quick chronology of what's happened during the flood and how it brought us to this point. Back in chapter 7 of Genesis, Noah entered the ark before it started raining, and he stayed there for 7 days. 7 days later, the rains descended, 40 days and 40 nights. And a lot of people think, hey, that's the end of it. 40 days of rain, let's get out of here. But actually, the flood lasted for 150 days. 110 days after the initial 40 days of downpour. Then, for the next 5 months, the waters receded. And after that, the ark came to rest on, it says, the mountains of Ararat. And then 74 days, actually 2 months and 13 days after the ark rested on the mountains, Noah could see the mountaintops of other mountains around. And so what did he do? He sent out a raven and 3 doves to test to see if the land was drying up. When the third dove did not reappear, Noah decided things must be pretty good. And so what he did was he uncovered the ark. He looked out, and this was 10 months and 13 days after he'd been on that ark. He uncovered the ark and saw that the earth was dry. But even after that, he waited another 57 days before he, his family, and all the animals left the ark. So that means that all of those people were inside of that ark for 1 year and 17 days. That was probably a journey they had never, ever imagined. When God told Noah in the beginning that it was going to rain 40 days and 40 nights, he thought, I think I can handle a month and 10 days. But it ended up being over a year. So let's fast forward. We're going to come now to the day that Noah and his family, all the crew, left the ark. And we have to read to Genesis 8, 13 and 14. And it came to pass in the 601st year and the first month, the first day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and indeed the surface of the ground was dry. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dried. What's the big deal? Noah, let's get out of here. Can't you hear his wife, those sons, their wives, and all the animals saying, we're ready to go, Noah, let's leave. We can see everything's dry. Let's get out of here. But Noah waited another 57 days before the Lord spoke and said in 8:16, go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons wives with you. So tell me, if everything was dry, why would Noah wait that last nearly 2 months before leaving the security of that ark? Well, maybe it was because of the phrases that we heard in verses 13 and 14. Verse 13 said, the waters were dried up from the earth. And the same words in Hebrew were used for the surface of the ground was dry. Well, to you and me, that sounds pretty good. It means if it's been raining and the ground is dry, everything's back to normal. But that's not what those words really mean. You see, dry in Hebrew means to be desolate, to be destroyed, to be dry, to dry up, to lay in waste. 2 themes are used to give us the meaning of this word, and they're devastation and drying up. And both convey the message of wasting away. And that's what described the earth after the flood. But if that's not enough, let's go on to verse 14, where it said, the earth was dried. And here it means to be dried up, to dry, to wither. To be withered, and this refers to the drying up and the withering of the plants, the trees, the grass, the crops, and even the earth itself. There was nothing there. It was like a desert that had trees growing in it, a desert that had no buildings, no people, no sign of life anywhere. And you look, the ground was dried up, it was cracked up. And that's what God really meant when he had told Noah before the flood that the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through him. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. When Noah looked out, there was destruction everywhere. He may have seen bones of people, bones of animals. And he saw a land, an earth that was completely devastated. Life as Noah and his family knew it was gone forever. And looking through the roof of that ark, Noah and his family may have needed time to prepare themselves, not just spiritually, but mentally and physically. They had to make plans as to what they needed and how they would survive in the process. And in evaluating everything, perhaps Noah needed that nudge or maybe a push from the Lord saying, get out of the ark, Noah. I want you to leave. It is now time to leave. Leaving the security of the ark was a big step. And you know, it's like it is with us sometimes. God wants to move us to a new area. And we look out and we don't know what he's talking about. We can't see the future. But we know our present state is secure. It may not be the best, but it's better than the unknown, we think. And God has to sometimes get behind us and say, hey, look, something better is coming. You may not be able to visualize it today, but I've got plans for you. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for good and not for evil. That's what he was implanting in Noah's heart when he says, get out of the ark, take everything with you. And so in verses 18 and 19, it says, so Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with them. Every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever creeps on the earth according to their families went out of the ark. So, after that year and 17 days on the ark, the 8 people remaining alive on earth disembarked to begin again. And God says, I want you to take everything with you. Take all the people, take all the animals, take everything with you. There was nothing left on that ark that Noah would want to go back to. But where did they depart the ark, and what happened to it? That's a major question that's been debated a lot. And I want to give you one possible answer. You see, there's only one verse in the Bible that gives us any hint of where Noah's ark may have landed. And that's in Genesis 8:4. It said, then the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. For years, men have searched up and down all over the face of Mount Ararat looking for the ark. You see, Mount Ararat is in Turkey, but Genesis didn't say Mount Ararat. It said the mountains of, and not mount. So, where is Ararat? Actually, Ararat is the name of an ancient country, Urartu, that covered eastern Turkey, western Iran, and western Russia. Mount Ararat itself is located in Turkey, and it's known as the Greater Ararat, the highest mountain in all of Turkey. But there's also a neighboring little Mount Ararat, or known as Ararat the Lesser. It's not as tall, but a discovery was made there. You see, the ark, as documented by Josephus and others, was found available on the lesser Mount Ararat. But even though we have documentation of people actually visiting that site, it was covered with a mud and lava flow, which caused future generations to lose sight of it. That was until May 1948. Remember that date, because it was the day that Israel became a nation. It's when a new era getting us ready for the last days came into being. And that earthquake moved the ark down the mountain to its current location. Well, you say, how do we know this is the ark? There's a lot of speculation about it and also a lot of documentation. In 1959, a Turkish pilot was taking some aerial shots, and he took the geodetic survey photo of that area. And when people looked at it, they saw that there's something there that looks like a boat. And so research at the site began again when Life magazine actually published his aerial photo displaying this huge boat-shaped object the size of 2 football fields. Well, they started, but they couldn't really see anything because it was still encrusted by so much mud. And research was limited because, as I said, the object was deeply embedded in the surrounding terrain. But just like an earthquake, back in 48, brought the ark down, in 1979, another earthquake dropped earth from the sides of the structure, and that gave definition to the formation and made it actually more accessible to those who would do research, and it helped them to see what they were looking at. So, what did all the research reveal? A lot of people have come up with things, and Kevin Fisher of the Ark Discovery put some facts together for us. Why do we think that this could be Noah's Ark? Well, first of all, it's in the shape of a boat with a pointed bow and a rounded stern. And the exact length fits the biblical description, 515 feet. You see, for years, people were looking for Noah's Ark at 450 feet because the Bible said the ark is going to be the 300 cubits. And 300 cubits, when we think of it being 18 inches, 450 feet. However, remember several sessions ago when we were talking about the diagram of the ark, we said that Moses wrote the book of Genesis. And Moses was raised by an Egyptian, and he used the Egyptian cubit, which was 20.6 inches, and not the one that we think of normally as being the 18 inches. Well, the ark that was discovered on the Lesser Ararat mountain is exactly 515 feet, the dimension that the Bible gives. Then also, this boat was found on a mountain in the eastern Turkey, which goes along with Genesis 8:4, in the mountains of Ararat. it became so widely known and so accepted in that area that in 1987, the Turkish government established Noah's Ark National Park and then later upgraded the site to a national treasure and even opened a visitor site there that people can go and visit to this day. And many, many visitors are there. And doing the research on it, they discovered from parts that they were able to extract, the wooden pieces that are there are actually laminated wood. Something that we think would not be discovered until centuries later. But remember, this was before the flood. This was back during a time when technology was so very prevalent. And God gave men the ability to think beyond what we would say beyond their time, but we're looking back and we're seeing what they were able to do. And so there was laminated wood, and then radar scans show a regular pattern of timbers inside, revealing the bulwarks, the animal chambers, ramp systems, a door on the right front, and also an open center for airflow on all three decks. In 2016, high-resolution resistivity scans reveal high-tech man-made metal alloys, fittings of aluminum and titanium. These are things that never should have been in a boat that was buried for centuries. These were things that as people look at, they say, it can't be because they were not invented at the time that we know that this boat was there. And that's why we know God's hand was in it. God's hand was preserving it. There were huge anchor stones found nearby, which would have hung off the rear part of the ark to give it stability in all of the rushing, swirling winds. There's an occupied ancient village at the original site, which matches Josephus' words of saying its remains are known there by the inhabitants of this day, and they show them off to other people. There were visitors who came to see the ark. It was a site of tourism, just as it is today. There was an ancient pottery shred found within 20 yards of the ark, which has a carving on it that depicts a bird, a fish, and a man with a hammer wearing a headdress that has the name Noah written on it. Now, this did not come from the ark. No. It came from those ancient historical times, from the Chaldeans, when these items were created by locals and they were sold to visitors to the ark. So there's many other evidence as why this could really be Noah's ark and why God has preserved it and allowed it to be today. So if that's the case, we've got two questions that I want to ask you. And that is, why would the discovery of Noah's ark be significant for you and me today? What difference does it make? I mean, this happened a few thousand years ago. Why should we care if Noah's ark was discovered? And then the other question is, why is it just now coming to light? Well, I'm going to try and answer those two questions. First of all, Jesus used Noah's ark as a sign of his second coming. In Matthew 24, and these, Matthew 24 is probably one of the best known sections when it talks about the second coming of Christ. And in verses 37 through 39, Jesus said, "But as of the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know that the flood came, until the flood came and took them all away, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Jesus said, hey, people weren't expecting the flood, and they're not expecting me to come either. And so what he was doing was letting us know for sure that this ark existed, and the story about Noah is real. And we need to believe that Noah's ark and Noah is real to reinforce in our mind that the second coming of Jesus Christ is real. One was a past event, but that past event was nothing but a foreshadow of a future event that is soon to come. And then secondly, I believe that Peter answers the question of why Noah's ark is revealed in these days. 2 Peter 3:3-6, knowing this first, that scoffers will come in the last days, that's today, walking according to their own lusts and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continued as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they will willfully forget that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water and in the water, by which the world that then existed perished, being flooded with water. Well, today we are in the last days, as Peter started out saying. And also today, many have chosen to willfully forget that God sent judgment. They've forgotten all about God. And they forgot the judgment that he sent in Noah's days. But because we are in the days that Jesus and the Apostle Peter spoke of, I believe that God has given us a visible reminder, a reminder that Jesus is coming again, and it will be very soon. You see, Noah's Ark is more than just a story. It's a reminder to all of us to always be ready. And let me challenge you with that today. Just as Jesus said in Matthew 24, he says, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. We're in the days of Noah. And Noah's Ark has been revealed as a reminder. Get ready. Be ready. Stay ready. Jesus is coming soon.